Hello there, and welcome to Urtheart's Boombox and Last Minute Continues Game of the Year Awards 2019. We did this last year, and I have invited my guests back to help me again decide this year's greatest games. So we do have a Turbo.
Hello there.
And a ShadowFox.
Ahoy, hoy.
And yeah, I've managed to find people that have actually played 5 games this year because it was actually kind of difficult. We've all been rather busy catching up, I think.
Yeah, it's. I mean, the games that I've played, it's a mixture of like both new and re-released. So I'm kind of cheating with some of them.
I ended up going pretty much back to games that got most of the games that got updates this year and were worth playing again, or something like that.
Yeah, there was actually one game, and I'm going to say it now, Slay the Spire, which I would have put on my list if it wasn't released November 2018. 17.
Just barely out.
Sorry, yeah.
Also, just to preface, this is the game of the year of the games we've played this year, because I certainly know that there are many games that would be on my list if I had the time or money at certain times of the year to play it.
Yeah, so one of the prerequisites for this is that we have to have played the game, because otherwise how do we know it's worth being Game of the Year, I guess? I'm going to assume none of us have played Red Dead Redemption 2?
Nope.
No,
so that's off the list, so we're sorry. We know that's pretty much been universally agreed as the best game of the year, but none of us have played it.
Not quite.
Just basically for this podcast, don't expect the major AAA sellers to be on all of our lists, because that's not going to happen.
There's at least 2 on mine. I'm going to say that. Although, admittedly,
I've got a couple of high-class games on it.
Yeah. So, let's get started. This year we're going to go in the order of Turbo, ShadowFox, and then myself. I don't know why I keep going last, but it stops.
You got to go first next year.
Yeah, we'll do that next year.
Yeah, it is your show after all.
This is true, but I kind of like going last because that leaves, I don't know, it leaves me to ponder everyone else's. A few rules. As I said, you have to play it, and I have excluded any games I've worked on this year, which have been Strange Brigade, Battlezone Combat Commander, and Arcus Path VR.
Surprisingly, mostly games by Rebellion.
I wonder why. So let's get started with number 5.
Yeah, for my 5th entry into the top 5 of 2018 games, it was a remaster of a game that I actually enjoyed back in the day, and it was a long-awaited remaster for this one because the series as a whole has been pretty much on the back burner for the longest time, and I'm glad it finally came out in March of this year. Earlier this year, and that was Burnout Paradise Remastered. Burnout Paradise obviously is an open world. It was the first open world entry in the Burnout franchise. And frankly, it was pretty much the only Burnout game for the longest time until they released that very piss poor game on digital download. I think it was like Burnout Crash, I think they called it.
I can't remember that game existing, so that was how well it did.
I'm trying to remember if Burnout, because I remember. No, yeah, you're right. It wasn't it? 'Cause I was trying to think. I thought there was one after that. There was like another major release after that, but I actually don't think there was.
No, because the team Criterion went on to focus their EA made them focus their efforts on the Need for Speed franchise, and they started making their version of Most Wanted to start, and then
Need for Speed has died, hasn't it?
Well,
there wasn't a Need for Speed game this year, was there?
Not this year, I don't think so, no. No, I don't think there was. No, actually, no, I lied. It's Payback.
Oh.
Yeah, I think Payback was this year.
All.
But yeah,
The Burnout.
But yeah, Burnout Paradise. Oh, love that game. Loved playing through that game. Picked up the PS4 version, got the platinum for it, and it was amazing to relive that amazing open world game. And I'm not big on open world games, and especially racers, for that matter. But Burnout Paradise just after, because I played Burnout Paradise on the 360 after I played the 360 version of Revenge for the longest time, and it's just it was just fun. It was just overall fun, and that's why I missed from not only from the Burnout series but also like racing games in general, because usually my racing taste tends to be either that or something like a Mario Kart, a la Mario Kart, like the Sonic and All Stars Racing series.
Burnout Paradise definitely had quite a big reach and broad appeal compared to your typical races. I think you're kind of more attracted to the arcadey style races.
Yeah. I'm more of an arcade racer rather than a simulation one. So
every console, the major consoles they've got there, you've got your Forza and your Gran Turismo, and then for like your realistic races, and then after that you've got pretty much everything else. For the arcadey one, you need for speed, your Burnouts, your kart races.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my number 5. Very underrated, very overlooked. The re-release remaster of Burnout Paradise there.
Also, that one did completely miss me by. I was not aware that was a thing that came out this year.
I remember hearing about it and then completely forgot it came out.
Well, there you go. It's like you need to pay more attention to all these little small releases that come out every so often. And I'm sure there's going to be a couple more from my list that you're probably going to think, oh my god, that came out this year? So, yeah.
Maybe. I try and keep a fairly comprehensive list for stuff like this. So go on, ShadowFox, what are you up to?
Yeah, my turn then. Okay, so I debated what would be the number 5 out of like the 6 games I played this year. And I was going to give it to Fighting Herds, but I realised that I technically can't, because while it released this year in February, that was still early access, and it hasn't come out of that yet.
I'm fine with you putting early access releases on, as long as you don't put them on again when they come to full release.
I mean, the game has like a full roster of characters, a whole 6 of them, but they are of a different variety. Okay, we'll go with it then. Well, it's probably one of I played it more than my other game anyway. So, yeah, Them's Fighting Herds was a fighting game that I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago that it was first initially touted or something, and then it kind of got stuck in one of those development issues where, because it was actually an entirely different game, which got hit by a cease and desist by Hasbro.
I wonder what that was on.
Yes. I mean, with a game called Them's Fighting Herds, it might be slightly obvious that maybe you aren't playing as standard characters and maybe of the 4-legged variety. Which makes it for something of a different fighting game. Because, like, as I said, there's only like 6 characters in it. But each of them shows a different like archetype of fighting game character. So you got your grappler, your projectile, your stuff like that. And I mean, obviously, again, it's an indie game, so the music is absolutely stellar, and it has one of those really like awesome musical systems where, depending on what's going on, the music will kind of change. Like you remembered. So I remember you mentioned it to me, was it Punch Out for the Wii, I want to say it was, where it's like the main theme was, like the fighting theme was just the main theme, but with a different spin on it for each character.
It was kind of, they did it in kind of the different countries' regional music tastes and stuff, so Glass Joe's was in very much a, the Marseille kind of style, whereas Soda Popinski's is in Russian chanting style. Kind of thing.
Oh, so Fighting Herds takes it to the next level, where like when you start fighting, the music is like it's the stage music, so it generally leads more towards the character it's like the stage represents, but it's a more neutral version. But as the fight goes on, if you start doing really well in the fight, the music turns as the fight is going. The music turns towards the winner. So if you're playing as Arizona, the standard like cowgirl grappler, you start hearing a cowbell, obviously. You kind of get a regular guitar going on kind of thing, like an old western-y sometimes, but like a rock western kind of style of music. If Oleander, the goth unicorn thing, starts winning, you get like a gothic orchestral kind of thing going on. And it's just a really, I mean, I love that system. The music is hyping your battle for you.
There's another game that I remember that had like a really interesting music system, but that's a discussion for another time.
But yeah, I mean, the entire game it's a standard 2D fighter with mechanics that work really well. It's like a small but simple, fun little game if you enjoy the fighting game. And I really look forward to when it comes out like properly and it has the full story mode and everything in it. But I think at this point they have at least finished all the animations, because I think back in February there was still a lot of like scribbled animation frames in there.
Would have been interesting to see. Fair enough.
Yeah, so I'll put that one there as number 5. It was a fun game, and sets a bit of a theme in my top 5.
Yeah, I kind of already know what your theme is, but we'll leave people guessing until the end. I'm actually going to be kind of siding with Turbo on this one, in that mine's also a HD remake. But mine has had to have a little bit more work done to it, because it's a PS1 remake. And
yours
that
was
is
put even further on the back burner.
Yeah, so this is the Spyro Reignited trilogy. Now, last year I believe I had the Crash Insane trilogy, and that was quite high. This one falls slightly lower, definitely, than Crash, because it was certainly nowhere near as polished, and there's a few bits that were a bit iffy. I had quite a lot of bugs with the game, but it was still very enjoyable. It does look beautiful. The reimagined levels have had a lot of effort put into them, and certainly I can't blame them for that. But I barreled through the games in about a week. Thoroughly enjoyed my time, but it didn't quite hit the same spark as Crash, but I would highly recommend it. If you've never played it before, go and have a shot of this. It's fairly cheap for considering how much game time you get out of it.
3 in 1, don't you?
Yeah, essentially. I don't know if either of you guys played the original?
Oh, the original, yeah. I think my first proper console after I got Mega Drive, then it went straight to PlayStation, and so Crash and Spyro were mainstays on that console.
How about you, Turbo?
No, I went to Nintendo myself after the after the Dreamcast and whatnot. So, so I kind of like skipped on pretty much the PlayStation era. I mean, I only kind of like experienced certain PlayStation games, particularly that of the Resident Evil series, more so than anything else, as an outsider looking in kind of like thing.
I will say that for me, Spyro is definitely one of the few games that I can say is, if you've got kids, this is the game to get them more than anything. Well, if you have a PS4 or Xbox One, I guess. So yeah, that is my recommendation. Spyro, the Reignited trilogy. Would recommend it. Not sure if I'd recommend it over Crash, though. I think I'd recommend Crash first.
With Crash's slightly adjusted. Does Spyro have a slightly adjusted hitbox like Crash did?
I couldn't tell you. No one's noticed yet.
No one's complained about slipping off edges on.
Oh no, people have, but that's partially other things. The Spyro Reignited is a lot more buggy than Crash. I had one rather nasty one where I had an entire invisible rock blocking the entrance to a level.
Oh dear.
So, yeah. But yes, on to number 4, Turbo.
Yeah, my fourth entry in my games of 2018 it's got to be a fighting game. myself here, and I've actually played a number of fighting games actually this year. Though one actually came out last year and it got released on a system that I actually wanted to play it on, but I'm not going to include that one. I'm going to go for the one that actually did come out this year for all formats, and that was of the a very lucrative kind of like crossover fighting game that was it got a fair amount of buzz to it. It wasn't that popular and whatnot. Wait, hold on a second. You guys thought I was gonna say Smash Bros, right?
Nah, not after you said it was coming to all formats.
Yeah, that was a kind of a deal breaker there.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, I was gonna talk about BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think, what you said all formats. I think
the fighting game, the 2-on-2 fighting game, where it crosses over the worlds of Persona 4 Arena, BlazBlue, Ruby, and the last one. It's like
franchise none of us knew until.
Yeah, it's like it's like something Night. I think it's like.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Alright, so somewhere around that. But
I was going to say
I could name the other three easily, but that one, nah.
The title of the game pretty much tells you everything you need to know about the game.
Yeah, alright. But no, I picked this up on Switch myself, and I was really intrigued in it because I was invested to at least half of the roster of characters for it, being out the Persona Arena side and the Ruby side, because I have played Persona 4 Arena and Arena Ultimax beforehand, so I'm kind of familiar with Arc System Works and their gameplay style and their design character designs for their animations and whatnot, which are really good. But yeah, in terms of like the fighting, it's easy to learn, difficult to master, and by God is that the case online, where I got my ass handed multiple times.
I think that's the thing with a lot of fighting games. It's like you can pick it up, you can button mash, and pretty much figure out half the things, but try to take that shit online, and you're gonna get yourself put in a box.
Yeah, pretty much. But I did actually have a good time with it. I did enjoy the single player campaign with it, with the 4 stories intertwining and whatnot. And yeah, it's definitely a fighter that I feel as though over time it's gotta get overlooked with the future like fighting titles being released or being updated for the tournament scene and whatnot.
Well, I mean, this game did very well this year because this game actually beat out Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate for a spot on the main stage at EVO this year.
Yeah, you mean Infinite?
Infinite, sorry, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say if it beat Ultimate, Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate, I'd be like, wow, really? Infinite? No,
I didn't even know there was an Ultimate in Marvel vs. Capcom.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Ultimate, I thought he meant.
Oh, right. Aye.
No, I mean, I meant the new one that did slightly less well than they hoped.
Yeah, with their special collector's edition Infinity Eggs.
Yeah.
It could be worse. It could be a not bag you promised.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, back to BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. Yeah, really good game. Really, if you're looking for a fighter that has real cool spectacle effects and character design and overall like a decent fighting engine, go grab it. It's awesome game.
Arc Systems don't.
Oh yeah, they cannot do you wrong unless they try to lock out an entire roster of characters and be a bit. Because originally the controversy was that you wouldn't get the full team of Team Ruby. You would only get Ruby and Weiss as characters from the get-go, but you would have to pay for Yang and
I think Blake was pre-ordered DLC.
Yeah, but no, eventually they rectified that and gave them as free downloads from the get-go.
Yeah. I
You've
mean,
still
like,
got-
there
still
are
gotta pay
other,
for half
there are
the
other
Sony
Ruby
cast.
teams you can do as DLC. So
Yeah.
That's true.
but yeah, I mean, I know we played Blaze Blue at RTX, so
Yeah, we've played it a few times at different conventions. I think
we have, yeah.
Mm.
So
it
yeah,
is. It is fun, but I struggle to get used to fighters. So
There's so many different fighters. You'll remember the button. You'll remember, like, is it a 2 button, a 4 button, a 6 button? Is it? It's like, what kind of fighter is it?
cool.
Yeah, so that's my number 4 there.
Alright. So that means my number 4's next.
Yep.
So, this one was a game that came out at the beginning of the year. And I know that you and me, Josh, had a lot of fun with it with another friend of ours. And it might be a bit of a surprise to hear that it's a Metal Gear title.
Oh
They was-
yeah,
Metal Gear Survive came out this year.
I completely forgot about that.
I know. But we spent like 3 months on that game, I think, about.
I think a lot of people are gonna have your head for even suggesting that it was at least a top 5 game of the year.
Remember,
Well,
top
people is-
5 I played this year. That is a very important part of this
If
conversation.
you've only played 5 games, it's gotta fit in there somewhere. To be fair, as I kind of agree that I know a lot of people hated it, but there are much worse games that came out this year.
The problem was that people hated it not because it was a bad game, but because of all the stuff surrounding the game. And I will be the first to say that Konami's business practices, they don't sit well with me. But at the same time, to say that a game is terrible because of the company and not because of the individuals who worked on it is an insult to those individuals who worked on a game that was actually alright and actually rather fun.
I mean, we certainly had fun with it. I'm not going to deny that.
And I mean, the game had a full-on single-player mode that lasted quite a while. Maybe not like a full length, like 10 hours or so. And
Considering how budget it was as well.
it was. I mean, it reuses the Fox engine from Metal Gear Solid 5, which is a great engine. Makes a few tweaks, and it was a game that was it was a discount game, like £30 or $30, wasn't
I
it?
think I got it for like 25 quid.
Yeah, actually, I got it 25. So the fact that the game is less than half price for a full retail game, you got a full single player scenario out of it. There was weekly daily missions, and the gameplay was actually pretty solid. I mean, it's
It
a
was
kind of
carbon
standard.
copy of 5, wasn't it?
Very similar, but I mean, it's pretty much as you'd expect from like a survival, zombie survival game. In that you kind of you got to be quiet, you got to stealth around. You can craft bits and bobs. It kind of brought into that whole survival crafting thing in like it says in the name. But I mean, like I said, there were lots of nods to the actual Metal Gear franchise. Like in the multiplayer, you can call in Metal Gears to help fight and clear off the waves of enemies.
That was cool.
There's one mission that takes place at like an airfield, and you can call in the Metal Gear, and then basically the Shagohod just comes flying in off the screen and starts doing donuts over the airfield, and then just bails out again after it's wiped everything out. Yeah. So again, the actual game itself is nothing spectacular, but again, like I said, I got 3 months of entertainment out of that with 2 friends, challenging ourselves and having some fun with goofy weapons, running around with massive sledgehammers with rockets on the back to propel them faster to crush zombies. Little walker gears. But yeah, I mean, it's basically a mixture of an asset flip of all the old stuff that Konami had basically put a lot of money into with the engine and assets, but they made it. But the people who worked on it actually made something that was fairly decent. So, I haven't actually touched it in a long while though. I don't even know if the servers are still up.
They gotta be up for. They can't cut the servers already. I agree with you. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people screamed about. It wouldn't have made my top 5. It possibly would have sneaked in at 6, maybe 7.
I'll say,
but it would never make the top 5.
No, I say at the end of this, I do have like a full list of games that are just like other games this year that would have made the list and been in these top 5 if I had played them. So, Metal Gear Survive would have definitely been pushed down, but you know, so
It's the
be
one
it
you
as
like.
it is. This what this list is.
Cool. So my number 4 is the one you probably thought Turbo was going to say, Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Yay.
I'll be honest, this is just been an enjoyable title. The reason it's kind of low on my list is just because there wasn't really anything that surprised me about it. It was exactly what I thought it was going to be. More Smash Brothers, kind of better refined. I'm slightly disappointed a few things are missing. Where's my home run contest? I would have liked the level editor to be in there.
There's no home run.
There's no home run
wow.
contest. So
It's like Mr. Sandbag is still in the game, just in the testing period and whatnot, testing area.
is that for online? Because I've not done that yet.
It's in if you want to configure the button controls and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you can
yeah.
you can punch Mr. Sandbag in that. So
But yeah, the World of Light was good. I still prefer the Subspace Emissary myself, but that's a personal preference more than anything. The one thing I really like is the individual layouts for the arcade modes for every character. That was really nice. But overall, it's just an enjoyable game. I think I'll get a lot of mileage out of it. It wasn't. There was nothing really that made me wonder and surprise and go, because I kind of already knew everything. I'd say the one thing that was maybe disappointing was everything got revealed beforehand. There was no extra characters other than DLC characters, obviously.
So there's still a few surprises to be had there with who they pull in.
Yeah, quite possibly. So yeah, my number 4, Smash Brothers Ultimate, definitely worth it. Just low because I kind of already knew what I was getting. No real surprises with it.
Nintendo pretty much they got it on lockdown with the Smash Brothers series now. They know exactly what they're doing. They know what characters to put in. They know who the hype makers are.
Still did not see Joker coming a mile off.
No, I was watching the Game Awards on the second screen, and I saw Persona on there, and I was like, oh yeah, so there's probably something and like the envelope there, and I was like, was not expecting that.
Hopefully, by the time this has come out, the Smash Brothers episode with me, Turbo, and the British Andy will already be out.
I hope so.
I'm still expecting. I genuinely think your number 1 will be on that list.
Oh, I hope so. I do hope so on
really
that.
do.
Oh, so what's it? If we're talking about quickly about Ultimate, who do you want in it? Who do you want to be in that last batch of DLC characters?
You'll have to listen.
You
to
have
the
to listen to the
out.
podcast. Yeah. We're not gonna spoil on this one.
Number 3, then.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna go right into following up your number 4 with my number 3, which is Smash Brothers Ultimate. Ironically enough, you've pretty much nailed the majority on the head. I've been enjoying it. I've been playing through World of Light for over 30 hours. I've dabbled in some of the other single-player stuff as well. I've unlocked all the characters. I've loved playing through it. And of course, I plan on getting more out of it with going online. Just need to get myself a LAN adapter for the online modes and whatnot, because I want to have as stable as connection as possible when playing this game.
From what I've heard, that's not going to help though. It's still a pretty.
Yeah, well, hopefully Nintendo will obviously have their. I mean, from what I've heard from certain reviews and stuff like that off the online, it's decent enough,
Yeah, I think it's the pro
Nintendo...
players that are a bit.
Yeah, you gotta have obviously pro players that are gonna be absolutely manic and absolutely gonna dominate you. But that's a given with me. But I'm talking about like with friends, like yourself, Josh, and Yeah.
Yeah, if I could be bothered to pay for Nintendo's online service.
Yeah.
So I heard some issues with the online that when you try to play online, you basically choose what kind of game mode you want to play as, and then it just randomly puts you with a bunch of...
Yeah, it's like, that's what kind of other fighting games in the past have done, where you're given like a filter system, and you're just like, okay, I want to do this, this, and this. But the game will try its best to give you that scenario, but it might take too long for that to happen. So the best thing to do to keep the flow going is to just put you into a match that will, be of someone else's choosing, and then be a part of that.
Yeah, Smash hasn't been out that long, so Nintendo have time to refine that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there'll be plenty of updates coming along the way to refine it a bit more. But overall, the base game at the moment is worth the value. Is definitely worth the value. It's like with that large roster of characters and the amount of hours that I've gotten out of it already, out of just the single player content alone, is worth it. And I definitely would say it would be worth putting it on my list at number 3 at least, because there are two other games that I had more enjoyment than Ultimate at the moment, and they'll be coming up very shortly.
There's one thing that I do really love is the fact that just because of the nature of the Switch, you've just basically got a 2-player game of Smash ready at any time.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very useful.
So, I was gonna say it's the ultimate, kind of like decision maker. Essentially, you just have it on the go, and it's someone's, and then you're at a coffee shop or something like that, and you and another person is fighting over the last bagel at the coffee shop. So it's like you just bust out your Switch, and it's like, you want to sell this in Smash? It's like,
and then while you do that, someone else nicks.
Yeah, the person off in the little hidey spot on the stage is just waiting.
Oh dear.
So, yeah. Nintendo, you make great games, but their online stuff does need a little bit of work. That's like the one place where they seem to have the most trouble.
But it's also the thing they have less experience than the other guys.
Yeah.
So.
Even though, you say less experience, they've been doing it since the DS, but it's just they don't have the best infrastructure for its online division at the moment. They still need to get some experts in there to properly work it out. But anyway, that was my number 3, Smash Ultimate. ShadowFox, what's yours?
Yeah, alright. Another fighter that came out this year. This was a good year for fighters apparently, because my list has one more in it after this. And I was like, this is another one which, again, people were, when this came out, people were looking at it, and I'm looking at the Marvel game that came out, and they were like, oh yeah, this is definitely the better version of this style of tag team game, and that is Dragon Ball Fighters, or Fighter Z, however you meant to pronounce that one.
Yeah, I was the same with me. It's like it was a toss up between BlazBlue and Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, or Fighters, because I got that on Switch as well. But for me, it was BlazBlue. I enjoyed that more, even though I'm a big, massive Dragon Ball fan, and I can totally commend its fighting engine and whatnot, and how well it is. It's like number 6 on my list. It's like barely in the top 5. There was just too many good games I played this year.
Yeah, well, it's another Arxis, isn't it?
Yes.
So...
Yeah.
It's a good year for them as well.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, a very good year for them actually. So yeah, again, this was another game that sort of replaced Marvel Evo, because if you wanted a tag team fighter, the Dragon Ball had all the characters. Every character you loved was pretty much in there, and a bunch of other characters who you didn't know if you didn't follow the show. Because there's some super characters in there as well, Dragon Ball super characters who I'm not the most knowledgeable with that stuff, but a little bit of googling helped me there. But no, I mean, it's fast paced action. It's your tag team fighter. If you ever played like Marvel vs. Capcom, any of them, you pretty much, that's what this game is like, except you've got Z fighters, which means everyone is shooting laser beams and like disappearing around the stage, so it's even faster than those games. I played one match with Pete, Phoenix Pete, and because there's a mode where you can play with 6 people, and each person takes one of the tag characters. And we all picked the Ginyu Force, which, if you're aware of Dragon Ball, is a collection of 5 fighters. And so now imagine 3 people on each side, tagging in, tagging out, calling in assists from each other, calling in the other members of the team. And we had this one moment where 2 people couldn't figure out who they were, and both called in a super which called in 2 other people from the team at the same time. So there's like these 6 characters on screen, all doing loop-de-loops and firing beams, and no one knows what's going on. But it is a spectacle of a fight, and I mean it looks and feels and plays amazing. It's just a good game, a good fighter.
Totally agree on that.
I've sadly not got round to playing this one. It's one I want to. I'm not particularly up on my Dragon Ball stuff, but I just wanted to try it, really. Cool. So my number 3 is a PlayStation exclusive game, and probably one of the more popular ones, based on a comic book, Spider-Man. I kind of went into this one not really knowing what to expect, because I've actually never played any of the older Spider-Man games, and I quite enjoyed this. I actually played it mostly while I was really ill, unfortunately. But I didn't really know what to expect going in. I went into it and basically was just thoroughly enjoyed it. The controls are really good. I had some slight hiccups at the start mixing it up with the Arkham series, because it feels very similar to that. But you have a lot more freedom about with Spider-Man's web-swinging abilities, and kind of he has much better mobility than Batman does. Batman kind of has to get somewhere, stop, and then do something. Spider-Man lets you kind of flow into everything a bit better if you can get good at it.
It's a different style of heroes, but
yeah,
I say that since Arkham has pretty much gave the blueprint of what to do for these kind of character action games. Actually, I guess they're sort of like Eastern character action games.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well,
again,
being that this one's done by Insomniac, who have had their massive run with their Infamous series and before this one, Sunset Overdrive on Xbox.
Oh yeah.
So
and also they've got a fair amount of experience with Ratchet and Clank as well.
Oh yeah,
which is a little bit different, but actually you can tell there's some influence from all of those bits. The cartoony humour is definitely in there. The only real gripe I have about this game, which stops it from being higher, is the main storyline is really well written, but you will spend so much more of your time doing side missions. And I actually got advised by someone to make sure I did all of the side missions as soon as they appeared, because if you leave them to the end, it's just a massive chore. Whereas what was nice about doing them as they come up is the story missions kind of separated out them. You do also play as other characters in it other than Spider-Man, and those bits are a bit weak. But I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I don't know if I got as many of the references as maybe a hardcore fan will, but it was very well designed, and I would highly recommend it, but would also give you the advice of probably do a lot of the side missions as and when you get them, just because A, it's your main upgrading route stuff, and B, yeah, I can imagine if you leave them all to the end, it's just, even doing them when they came up, there were big sections where they just became a bit of a chore because there's so many side missions to do, and not all of them are the most fun. But still, brilliant time had. This was actually a gift from someone, so I have to thank them on that one. Thank you, Matt, for that one. So yes, Spider-Man is my number 3.
So moving on up then.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Yeah, on to number 2, and with myself, I'm kind of cheating with this one because technically it's 2 games, but they have been released as one, so I'm gonna bundle them as one.
And put Spyro Reignited Trilogy on here.
Yeah, of course, but this is something that is separated into 2 games, and they are based on 2 different games and whatnot, but they have been bundled into one, and they're actually kind of like follow-ups from another game that I've played before on the Vita, but they've coming out on, or they've all come out on the PS4, and that's Persona 3 and 5 Endless Night Collection, or to separate the 2, Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight, and Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight.
Is this a Sailor Moon crossover?
I wish it was, but no. These are obviously successors to the Persona 4 Dancing All Night game that came out on Vita quite a while ago. I think it was like 2014, 15, roughly around that time.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and it was kind of like a side story that kind of like followed up from the events of the original Persona 4. But in this time around, it's involving the cast of both the Persona 3 characters and the Persona 5 characters. It's basically the same dancing game mechanic that they had in the previous games, but it just adds they streamlined it a little bit, where in the 4th game you had to earn or win money by playing the songs, and then use that money to buy costumes and stuff like that. Whilst this time around, it's like in-game achievements essentially to unlock scenarios, and then when you play through those scenarios, which is just dialogue, kind of like cutscenes as such, to a certain degree, you get rewarded with either items or modifiers to change the game up and stuff like that. But no, being a big rhythm game fanatic, obviously, I enjoyed Persona 4, even its flaws, and Persona 3 and 5 games were great to go through. And it was funny how both Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight and Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight have an intertwining kind of like story to them, because in certain elements they kind of hint at talking about the other protagonists in the other game in certain scenarios, and which is kind of fun, knowing that that's happening and whatnot, and it's overall just fun. It's a fun rhythm game. It's got to be bogged down by obviously all of this. It kind of has been bogged down by all of this year's major releases and stuff like that. But no, with I obviously my recommendation is that if you were wanting to get this, I would highly recommend getting the Persona 3 and 5 Endless Night Collection, which gets you both games, as well as a digital download code for Persona 4 Dancing All Night on the PS4, meaning that you can get 3 platinums from 3 games in quite an easy time. So essentially, it's almost like the Crash Insane trilogy and the Spyro Reignited trilogy, where you got 3 games.
A wee bit more expensive.
But it's not as cheap as those games, because they actually are. Well, 2 of them are actually new games, and one of them is a re-release of a newer game that only came out like 3 or 4 years ago. So
I didn't realize they re-released Persona 4 one. So actually, I might go for that when I get the chance.
Yeah, it's definitely a pickup. If you love your rhythm games, definitely give that whole collection a try.
I'm quite
really
a fan
fun
of the Persona series anyway, so that helps me. But yeah, I actually tried one of them, I think 5, at EGX.
Is that the
And
main game or the dancing game?
the dancing game.
All right.
No, I've played 5 main games, platinum that
From last year, yeah.
Yeah, that was my number 1 last year, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it probably is.
Well,
But I want to get it, but it's unfortunately had to be a bit on the back burner because I've been busy.
Yeah, you're a busy man. But yeah, that was my number 2. All done.
alright then. Okay, so my number 2 was Chapter 1 in the Tale.
Oh, I know this.
Yeah, you figured that one out.
Yeah.
Alright, I won't beat about the bush then. It was Deltarune. Now, anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge fan of Undertale. Just generally everything about that game was fantastic, and Deltarune looks like it was. I think there's a lot of like work in there that was like basically stuff that wasn't put in Undertale, that was instead put into this, because it's like they aren't related games other than that they share a lot of characters. Even
A lot of ideologies as well, and it's kind of art style is definitely similar.
Oh, the art style, absolutely.
So you're saying that it's like the Majora's Mask of the indie scene, essentially, where it's like
It's a different gameplay style, so.
but it's still reusing like assets of.
No. Everything's pretty much all the assets are remade from scratch. It's just familiar
like,
style.
It's like there are a few like characters from Undertale, like you see Undyne, you see Sans, and their sprites are mostly unchanged, but there's a lot of new stuff in there. In fact, it's like 98% new stuff. It's like those character sprites are like the only things that exist. Everything else, they're like enemies. Because what's great is you start off the game, you press the start button, and the HUD is the menu is exactly the same as Undertale. Then you get into the actual game, and now the game is changed entirely. Again, there is so much attention to detail, like because now it's a party system. You're not an individual, so the combat is a case of you can like queue up things, so you know that if you can do a certain attack on this turn that makes the enemy weak or tired, you can then spare him with the second party member, and then so basically you get to double up on turns. And so there's a bunch of new mechanics in there as well. And while in the first game it was like your actions have consequence, in this game it seems to be more of like a story and a tale, where the things you do change little things in the world, but like the only thing that changes if you have a good end or a bad end, it's not even really a bad end, is if you basically beat up one dude. You can beat up everyone in the game, but only as long as it's not that one dude, and you'll still get the good ending. Because why not? But again, like the music is, I mean, it's Toby Fox. You've seen the amount of Undertale remixes there are since Undertale came out, and Deltarune is absolutely no different. The soundtrack is amazing. I bought that because Deltarune was free. It came out on Halloween. Like, it hadn't even been a week since Red Dead had been out at this point, and he just went, "Here's a free game. You can buy the soundtrack if you want." So I did.
To be fair, it's kind of the first, like you said, it's the first chapter, so I think we're expecting to pay for the rest of the game. But
I would pay for the rest of the game. I would have paid for that. It was great. I'm sitting there at the I sat down and like, yeah, he was like, yeah, this is a little survey thing. I'm like, okay, so I'll sit down, I'll play it. Okay, character creator. That's okay. Okay, that was whatever. And now we're doing this little thing, we're at the thing, and now the game would start. I'm assuming this is a demo, so it's not. No? Okay, so we're playing a bit of the game. Okay. Oh, this is different, this is nice. Carry on. So when does this demo end? Oh, it's got to end here, right? No. No, it's got to end here. No? Oh, it's 3 hours. The game is still on. Am I still going? 4 hours? Okay, there we go. 4 hours, and finally the game ended. And I was like, this wasn't a demo. This was, like, actually a game.
And there's still more to go back and find.
I was gonna say it's definitely totally shits all over what Cold Case Investigations tried to do with its episodic release schedule, where it did episode 1 and has not released an episode following up from it afterwards. I mean, that's been like, what, 2-3 years now? So
To be fair, we could be in the same situation here. This was everything that Toby had done, and this was kind of like his little test to see, like, do you want more of this? Which, of course, everyone just replied, yes. Of course we do. This is awesome. But yeah, but like the amount of like details again, and like the bits that he's obviously put into the code that do cool things. And if you go all the way back to the very beginning, after reaching like the final screen, there's a little save point that says the power of backtracking powers you, or something. I can't remember. The power of backtracking shines within you. That shining within you is the new determination. So like when you meet up with one of your party members, it says the power of mean girls shines within you. Again, the small details, like if you try to equip things to different characters, they will have little quips. They'll say different things. But if you try and take one of the things away from a character without giving them something in return, they go, "No, this is mine. I'm keeping it." So you have to give them something in order to get the good items off them. But yeah, I mean, it's gone taking the like single player Undertale thing to a party based thing, and I honestly really look forward to seeing more from this. Hopefully he does do more.
Yeah, this one jumped off the bottom of my list just because I as much as I really enjoyed it, I played it once. I've yet to go back to it just because I haven't had time. But I really hope we get the full version of it at some point. I suspect it'll take a while.
Yeah, so like, everything there is already done, so it would basically be a full game creation cycle.
Cool. Well, sticking with the indie theme, my number 2 is an indie game that was technically released on early access, I think, last year, but I didn't play it until its full release, and that is Dead Cells. Dead Cells is a 2D Metroidvania-ish. Actually, no, it's probably more like Mega Man Zero style, randomly generated dungeon crawler.
Roguelike.
Yeah, it's a roguelike. But what's quite nice is one of the things I really like about it is that it's very much down to your skill as to whether you succeed or not. But what's quite interesting is the game gives you multiple paths, and those multiple paths give you different bosses to fight. So depending on what equipment you get, you can decide to go and fight one boss or another, depending on which you're more comfortable with. And I finished the game. Kind of expects you to go through it multiple times anyway. Even once you finish the main boss, it then gives you the ability to fight other stuff within the levels that you wouldn't normally do, at the expense of making everything harder. There's loads of stuff to unlock. You can find blueprints as you go through the dungeon, but everything's so kind of basic, and yet there's so much depth to it. It's one of those easy to learn, hard to master games, I suppose, but there's just so many different little bits. You have 3 stats you can upgrade, all the different. You can equip 2 different weapons and 2 different kind of traps / bonus kind of thrown weapons, and knowing which ones combo well with each other, making sure that, say, like your bomb that sets people on fire is good because then you can hit them with your sword that does extra damage to people that are on fire, that kind of stuff. And there are so many items. Sure, you can have a bad run, but generally I can get quite far in the game. The final boss is an absolute tough nut, but I've only beaten him once so far. But thoroughly enjoyable. It's very reasonably priced. You'll definitely get your time out of it. But yeah, Dead Cells. I believe it's available on Steam and PlayStation 4. And definitely available on the Switch. I think it's available on Xbox One now as well. Just beware, it will kick your butt. And until you get used to the bosses will wipe the floor with you. The last 2 are still, if I don't have the right setup, kiss my butt goodbye, basically. So yeah, Dead Cells is my number 2. Before we hit on number 1, though, did you guys have any runners-up or disappointments of the year you wanted to name call?
One runner-up I want to point out. It was a game that I've been waiting for the longest time, and I only briefly played it a bit on my Switch during one of my journeys this year, and that was Hover, formerly known as Hover Revolt of Gamers. And I basically was sold on the fact that because Hideki Naganuma was doing a couple of tracks for the game, as well he's done another track for another indie game of what was it, Blaze Lethal League, kind of like a fighting game on the PC, but with you have to use a ball in order to make contact with your opponents. But no, with Hover, it was like an open world, Jet Set Radio game essentially, where you can inline skate around this open area and whatnot. Just it took a wee while to get out, and eventually my interest kind of just waned after a bit, and I just couldn't get invested into playing more of it. I did play a bit of it, and I did have some enjoyment out of it, but I couldn't really put it in my top 5. And it's probably gotta be like my 7th most played game. And another game I want to give a shout out to is the 25th anniversary of Flashback. Basically, I only had one room for one remaster here, and it had to be Burnout. I have more fun with Burnout, but I do love my Flashback as well. And it was 25 years this year, and it was great that it got a nice little kind of like anniversary release for not only Switch but also on PS4 and Xbox as well. So,
speaking of 25-year re-releases, Night Trap.
Oh yeah.
This year?
Yeah, that's the one that everyone wanted to play.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'll say if I have some mentions. So
what was going to be your number 5?
I say Beat Saber, pretty good. One of the highlights of the VR year, along with VR chat as well, which was a interesting, goofy experience to watch. Let's see what else came out this year. Hitman 2 came out this year, pretty good. Detroit Become Human, interesting one. A third of a good game, which is better than David Cage normally performs. Monster Hunter World came out this year. Owlboy came out.
Did Owlboy come out this year?
I think it did. Maybe it might have been a re-release or something.
Yeah, I think its Switch release came out this year. I think the formats came out earlier.
I'm kind of losing track with what year blends into what year at this point. The Yakuza team came out with Yakuza 6: A Song of Life and Fist of the North Star, which is not Yakuza, but the fact that Kenshiro and Kiryu are voiced by the same person, and the fighting is the gameplay is pretty similar.
I'm actually looking forward to their new game, the Attorney one.
Yes, the other one set in the Yakuza universe that isn't Yakuza.
Hey, they're branching out, can't blame them.
No, I mean, they know what they can do, and they can do it really well. So good to them. No Man's Sky officially released this year as well. And by that I mean the next update came, so it left early access.
Yeah, and it had its Xbox release at least, so yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that is true, actually. So did Nier Automata, which I'm going to give a little bit of a shout out, even though I didn't play the Xbox version. I played the PS4 version, which is why it didn't make my list. It would have actually kicked Spyro off my list otherwise.
Oh, wow.
However, I will say that I did have one game that was thoroughly disappointing, and that was Final Fantasy Dissidia NT. Final Fantasy's fighting game series, I loved the PSP games. This one just didn't do it justice. I can understand why it's a very good arcade game. Did not fare so well in the console port, unfortunately.
A shame.
Yeah, it's a shame, because I did buy it. But, yeah, I did not get enough enjoyment out of it.
Okay. So there is another game I'd like to bring up, but I want to see if it's any of your guys' number 1 first, because it was a pretty big deal.
Okay, fair enough. We'll leave that to the end. Turbo. what is your game of the year?
Well, my game of the year was actually, funnily enough, being mentioned earlier because apparently someone was just reading my mind and is also a big fan of the studio that he had to give an honorable mention to it. But me, I'm a more bigger fan of this game than pretty much anyone in this room and in this cyber room of audio waves. Being that my number one is that of Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise. I am a huge Fist of the North Star fan. If it wasn't for Fist of the North Star, being aired back in the day, late night on Channel 4.
That is one of those weird things that showed up on TV.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of like odd time, releases. It's like it just boggles the mind how like a channel like Channel 4 got the broadcasting rights to air this ultra violent anime at late at night on a Sunday night or something like that. It's ridiculous, but. No, if it wasn't for that, obviously I wouldn't have been a fan of the Fist of North Star series in general. And I obviously have played other entries in the Fist of North Star series, including the Ken's Rage games, 1 and 2, that was done by Tecmo Koei, or Koei Tecmo, whichever. I think it's Koei Tecmo. But
I've got the box here for Dissidia NT. I can probably tell you.
Yeah, I think it's Koei Tecmo.
Sounds right.
Yeah, but with what was it? Actually, no, it's done by Omega Force. It was the guys behind Dynasty Warriors. So, yeah, those Ken Rage games. But no, with Lost Paradise, when I heard the announcement that the Team Yakuza was working on this game for a Japanese release, I was like, oh, damn it, I wish we would come on, just translate it, give it to us, please. And wouldn't you know it, they came out and delivered. Sega was, great with, having the Yakuza guys, not only, obviously, like in previous Fist and North Star games, actually making it a little bit more violent, compared to the Japanese version, because that's always the weird thing. This is an ultra violent, it's close to an ultra violent anime, but it's not portrayed that for its media in the home country that it's from. It's actually less violence to a certain degree. So they always make it more violent with the Western release. As violence aside, I actually liked how they incorporated the base storyline of what Fist of North Star was always about and intertwine it in this new kind of like universe in this game, where they still have elements from the original story, from the manga and TV series and whatnot, and incorporate a new storyline into it with the Garden of Eden. Or the City of Eden, as it's called in this game, where Kenshiro goes to this place and he's trying to find Yuria, it's taking that base story of him trying to find his beloved, but instead of going through the regular story that we've seen being adapted multiple times in the fellow Ken Rage games I was talking about earlier, they just put in an original concept and mix it in with the source material, essentially, and it actually works, and it has some really funny moments in it. I can now understand why ShadowFox here actually likes the Yakuza games, because it does have charm and personality amongst the core story to it.
It's on my to-do list.
Yeah. So
the side missions are always absolutely hilarious as well.
Yeah, some of the side stories were absolutely hilarious. I mean, obviously Kenshiro becomes a hostess manager in it, which is beyond. It's totally outside of his element. Because this is the epiphany of masculine kind of like a post-apocalyptic machismo in this franchise, in the Fist of the North Star franchise, and he's a blooming hostess manager, and it's hilarious. And he has other side stories with other side characters in the game. It's absolutely hilarious, and I absolutely love it. I put up on my Twitter, which you can follow me at TurboXLR, where I posted my PlayStation 4 Life video, and ironically enough, I put in 125 hours, and it was the most played game I have ever played on the PS4. Second,
was it tied with your number 2?
it was tied with my number 2, but it does take the top spot, funnily enough. Tied to what was it? Not Persona. Project Diva X, I believe it was. But
oh yes, yeah.
But it goes to show you how much I loved playing Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise. The side stories and doing all the side missions and whatnot, and getting that platinum as well, which was absolutely a fun time going through that. I can't say anything more about it. It's obviously I'm always off the wall when it comes to my number 1 game of the year games. Although granted, the only time where I had something mainstream as my number 1 was obviously Doom 2016. But
no, actually, didn't you have Legend of Zelda?
Oh yeah, actually. Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, 2017 was Zelda as well. But no, this time around, boom! I am totally outside. I'm not with the crowd. I'm with this game, Fist of North Star: Lost Paradise. If you haven't played it, if you love Yakuza, if you like open world brawling games, give it a shot.
I'll say I've got to give props to like the Yakuza team and Sega, because they've started releasing those Yakuza games out on PC as well.
I'm actually hoping they bring that Fist of the North Star one to PC, because I want to try it.
I imagine they will. It's nice that it's like it's no longer locked to the PlayStation. There's at least now options for people to play it in other ways.
Ironically, that's one of the other games I wanted to play this year. Was another one that Sega did bring to PC, which is Valkyria Chronicles 4. Yet to play it, want to get round to it at some point.
Alright.
But no, I'm fully up. I'm fully up for you bringing some diversity to our top 5 list, Turbo.
That's just me.
Well, to be fair, ShadowFox did have them fighting herds at 5.
Yeah,
Something very different. Though,
I think I know what your number 1 is, though, ShadowFox.
Yeah. Well, number 1 was again, more fighting games, because this was my year of fighting games because that was what I played mostly, somehow. This one was a return to a series that was my fighting game of choice. Some people have their Street Fighters, they have their Tekkens. For me, it was always Soul Calibur. And this year, we got to see Soul Calibur 6 come out, which... it's everything I could have wanted from it. Like, back in 2 we had the Weapon Master mode, and there's a new single-player mode in this game, which is, again, fantastic. There's like the whole story going on. I mean, obviously it's a fighting game, so there's not really much of the gameplay variation, but there's lots of like modifiers on stages to make things different for you. Character creation, pretty awesome. Little lacking in items currently, but there's enough stuff there that you can do I mean, you've seen on the internet what people have made. It's like the amount of people have like made Pepsi Man and all these other weird creations that you wouldn't expect to see.
I had to laugh that someone put out a video with their character creation, and the highlight of it was 2B, and then an hour later. Hang on, what do you mean they just announced 2B as a playable character?
They announced that 2B was coming to the game. But yeah, I mean, in a year where fighting games have had a bit of issue, because even Street Fighter 5 had its issues, didn't it? It's being called a bit bland.
It's having some controversy at the moment with its advertising as well.
Yeah, that as well. But yeah, I mean, the game had everything. It had a solid story mode, solid arcade mode. Character creation is fantastic. There's a huge raft of characters, which means multiple styles. Again, music awesome, feels great, plays great. It's amazing. It's basically like a reboot, I believe, or like a something or another. So you get to see a lot of a lot of the old characters that kind of got shoved aside in 5 are kind of back now. So you got your Talim, your Taki, your Mitsuruki, your Yoshimitsu. It's just a really, again, it's a perfect fighting game for me because I just love all the mechanics of it. It's great. I can't state that enough.
The one character I kind of miss from the last one I played, Darth Vader.
I'm sure someone has created him. I mean, just like how I'm sure someone's created Link.
I've seen
True.
a Darth Vader. I've seen a Link. I've seen.
Yeah, I'm sure people have created all the guest characters that were in previous entries to be in 6. So
True, but I just love the fact that they would even let you do force chokes as Darth Vader. And then you had to fight Yoda, which was annoying as hell because he was too short.
the odd job of the Soul Calibur games.
Pretty much.
The Jedis in 4 were busted. There is no other word for it. They were busted.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
And yeah, and I tell you, the multiplayer online actually works really well. Very little lag or anything. So good code, because if any game you really want frame perfect accuracy, it's a fighting game. So yeah, that's my number 1 for this year.
Didn't expect it to be your number 1. I knew it was on your list, but so my number 1 is another PS4 exclusive.
No, this is why I think I might know what it is, but I may be entirely wrong. But it's why I didn't want to say a game in my honorable mentions.
And to be honest, I kind of expected to be not as happy with this one as the previous entries in this series, and got blown away by genuinely how good it was, genuinely how engrossed with the story I was, which is something that I normally don't really care about stories in games. This one really made me feel for it, and that is God of War.
Yeah,
or God of War 4, as it probably should have been called, because it is a direct sequel to God of War 3. But
it's not a direct sequel. It's
it is a direct sequel.
There's a few centuries between.
It is still a direct sequel.
Unless they have some side game like they did with the what was it, the Ghost of Sparta and Ghost of what was it, the other side game that was on the PSP that came out on PlayStation 3 down the line. I
can't remember.
Yeah, it's like if they have those kind of side games to fill in the gaps between 3 and this latest entry. Yeah.
I actually imagined that they might go back and do some of the time with Kratos and his wife and how they met and hunted together and stuff. But for God of War, a lot of the fears I had, stuff like Atreus being annoying. He was, but when he was annoying, he was purposely being annoying for story reasons, and the emotional journey that it went on you was very well done. Kratos is really well reimagined and has he's pitched perfectly, as well as having a magnificent beard, let's be honest.
Oh yeah, no. He definitely gives us beard wearers something to be proud with.
There were other there was a lot of surprises in the game. There was one big surprise which I'm not going to mention here because it's a massive spoiler, which unfortunately I did get spoiled for me, and it still did not impede the impact of the scene when
it was revealed.
Yeah.
Is it like during the credit time, or is it?
No, it's.
Is it like midway? I'm guessing.
It's when you get the second weapon for Kratos.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I think that's enough for me to say that. To be fair, if you look at the menu screen, you'll tell there's going to be a second weapon. So that's not that much of a spoiler. But what that second weapon is, I believe you'll find out basically.
Play it for yourself. essentially.
Yeah, because honestly,
go out and buy it.
this is Persona 5 last year. I could only really recommend it to hardcore, well, to RPG fans, really. God of War, I honestly suggest, unless you hate violence in video games, which I do know some people, this really should be a game you try. It is so well done. I would advise not playing it on hard difficulty because the balance on the hard difficulty is a bit weird. It starts off far too difficult, gets okay in the middle, and ends really difficultly. I think the balance is a lot better on normal from what I've heard from other people. I just went in straight hard mode because I'm stupid. But honestly, there is no other game this year where I've honestly just felt wowed so much by a game. I went into it expecting, yeah, it'll be a nice time, and I came out of it going, I never want to forget this game because it is just so well done. Which is great, because I went in with it within the mind of, I preferred the old God of Wars. I didn't think I'd enjoy the new style, but I did. So, kudos to Santa Monica Studios. They did an absolutely brilliant job. So that is my number one, God of War.
Yeah, writing for child characters is always a pain because they're 90% of the time they're annoying or they're a burden. It's like they're a thing you have to look after. Atreus, you don't have to like. There's the occasional combat thing where it's like he's in trouble, then you just smack an enemy and he's fine. But most of the time, he's an asset to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think in the last couple of, or few years of games where we had Bioshock Infinite and The Last of Us, I think Santa Monica probably took a look at those games and thought, okay, we need to know how to balance this side, this extra character that we're going to have in this game, being that of Atreus.
Yeah.
And
I think you're right, Bioshock Infinite was probably a very focal point for them. But one thing I really like with Atreus is the thing with Kratos, although he has some character development through the game, bear in mind Kratos, as I said, this is a direct sequel, so everything that's happened in the God of War games has happened, and he's not forgotten it.
He's still a very angry man.
This is true, but he has learned to control it a lot.
yeah,
better.
it's a calm storm with Kratos this time around. So,
but the thing with Kratos is he's already all that. Yes, he gets a few bonuses to his armor and stuff to help him cope with the new world, but most of the character development happens through Atreus, and it's a really interesting thing that happens because as you go through it, because you're playing as Kratos, you kind of just get that. You understand why Atreus is doing the things he does, and at some points you sympathise with him, and then there's some points where you just go, "Oh my God, you're such a stupid child," and you genuinely feel it as Kratos rather than just it's an annoying
player,
child character. Yeah, you feel it as, I understand why you're going through this cycle. Please just get through it quickly so we can get onto the better parts of your cycle where you've actually grown up a bit. But yeah, it's an amazing game. I really don't want to spoil stuff. One of the other things, I will compare it slightly to Spider-Man, where I said Spider-Man had too many side missions. One of the really nice things with God of War is all the side missions aren't just, hey, go and beat up criminals, hey, go and eliminate enemies. They're their own story arcs. You'll meet a few different characters through the game, and those side missions are basically you discovering more about those side characters or doing something for those side characters which have a whole nother story behind them. I honestly cannot think of a moment in this game, other than the final optional boss, which is fine, where I was not enjoying myself. It is an amazing game. Honestly, just go and try it if you haven't. Don't necessarily have to play it the whole way through, but I would genuinely advise you try it. And that is our list for the year. We only had a couple of crossovers, I think. Smash Bros.
Yeah, I think it was just the one crossover with ourselves.
Yeah. As I said, there's lots of games I would have liked to have tried this year as well. As I said, Valkyria Chronicles was one of them. I'm guessing ShadowFox, you would quite like to try God of War.
Yeah, I'd say I watched a playthrough of it, and like I say, most of those games I listed definitely be on my list. God of War would definitely be probably my number one of the year if I played it.
Yeah, and there's a few other games that have come out that I've just not had the time to play.
It's the same for myself. There was a couple of games that slipped through the cracks that I couldn't have played for this year. Yeah, and I bought them, and they're digital games, so they're just gathering dust on my hard drives on what they're on. So I just need to knuckle down and get to playing them whenever I got the chance.
Well, I think we could all agree that it's getting busier and busier. More and more games are being released, and certainly this, let's say, autumn-winter period has been manic with releases.
Mm-hmm.
So, but here's the 2019 and seeing what comes up. There's already at least 2 games I'm looking forward to at the moment, which I can guarantee you are going to be in my top 5, pretty much.
Same here, I think, as well. So
there are definitely some in there for me. Do we want to go off and list a few?
Well, for me, I'm really looking forward to that Medieval remake. I'm hoping that they do that justice. And Kingdom Hearts, which is about a month's time away, so not got long to wait for that one.
yeah, and and on the same month for myself, it's got to be Resident Evil 2 remaster or remake or whatever they want to call it. I'm just gonna call it Resident Evil 2. You know.
Well, it is Resident Evil 2.
It's a
Just call it RE2 Remake 2. Remake. I say next year I've also got there's Devil May Cry 5 coming out, which
Oh yeah.
I suddenly got into the Devil May Cry series, which mainly because of the Super Best Friends RIP. What else we got? But there's also Psychonauts 2.
Oh god, yeah, I forgot about that.
Be interested to look at that. I'll be interested about Anthem. Anthem's going to be an interesting one, maybe for the wrong reasons. That's going to be... It's basically it's going to be like a Destiny killer, which...
Well, it's either going to be a Destiny killer or a Destiny clone.
Yeah, with more microtransactions, because...
I was going to say, let's just hope that EA and BioWare know what they're doing with it then, and not...
I trust BioWare to know what they're doing. I don't trust EA.
Of course, we can never trust EA with anything.
That's one game I forgot about that I have played this year. Probably still wouldn't make my top 5. 2 Point Hospital.
Oh yeah.
I did play that. I bought it. I had quite a lot of fun with it, but I just suddenly stopped. I think it came out around the same time as Strange Brigade, which did not help its case.
No, yeah, you're...
Was a little bit busy.
What else? There's also next year we also get 2 new kart races.
Yeah.
In both Team Sonic Racing and Crash Team Racing.
Well, so one new one and one remaster.
Yeah.
well, to be fair, the Crash one is like it looks to be different enough because it looks like you can choose your kart you're in. So that's more than.
Yeah, they've said they're adding new tracks. I will say I'm slightly concerned that it's not being done by Vicarious Visions. Which is interesting. I'm holding out on that one. I will look forward to it. Sonic Team Racing, I tried that at EGX, and let's just say I wasn't impressed. So,
I haven't touched it yet or seen it yet, so no comment from me.
Yeah, I want to give it a fair chance when it comes out. They've delayed it for a reason.
I was gonna say I'm giving Sumo Digital the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully they can pull themselves together because they've been stretching themselves thin recently with other projects, and I hope with the extra time that they have with this game, they'll give us another knockout, I think.
Yeah, because the last 2 Sonic Racing games have been fantastic, so it'd be a shame if they drop the ball on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the only other things I have are pretty much like the little indie, the indie things I've already bought and I hope are good, which are Indivisible from the Skullgirls team.
Oh yeah, I've got that coming.
Yep. Lost Ember, which seems to be a kind of exploration thing, Vulpine be a fox with a sword. I mean, I'm all down for that.
I'm looking forward to that one they showed off at the Microsoft
Tunic.
conference. Tunic?
Tunic. I played that.
Did we try that
at
at
RTX. That was
RTX?
good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Mm.
Also, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, the not Castlevania.
Yeah, I'm interested to try that one, actually.
I've backed that one as well, so
I haven't
we
backed that
shall
one.
see.
I'm-
But yeah, so those are games that I've got pre-ordered, basically.
So yes, thank you for joining us, everyone. We hope you've had a lovely 2018, and we'll probably see you again next year, to be honest, because hopefully we'll have played some games by next year.
My plan is to play more than 5 new games next year.
How about yourself, Turbo?
Don't worry about me. I'll be able to, be playing my
Sure.
games no matter what I'm doing. So don't worry. I'll be here next
Yeah.
year with 5 more for you guys to look forward to play yourselves.
It's kind of nice just limiting this to only the 5 we play, though, because otherwise there are definitely games in these lists that would never make anyone's top 5 otherwise.
Hey, it's something for them to try if they've never heard of it. Certainly, Dead Cells. The one game that I would have put on my list if it was released this year was something called Slay the Spire.
Yeah.
I've had great fun with that, but it's not finished yet, so still a chance for it to come on next year. But yes, thank you for joining us from myself, from Turbo, and from ShadowFox. We wish you Happy New Year if it's not already started, and otherwise keep gaming. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
See ya.